I remember the exact moment I hit rock bottom. It was 2 a.m., my eyes burning from the glow of my phone screen, my thumb scrolling endlessly through a blur of Instagram reels, TikTok dances, and tweets I'd forget by morning. I hadn't slept properly in weeks. My room was a mess of takeout containers, and my inbox was overflowing with unread emails from work I'd been dodging. I was 27, living in a cramped apartment, and I felt like my life was slipping through my fingers. 10 hours a day. That's how much time I was pouring into my phone, according to the screen time tracker I'd ignored for months. 10 hours. That's 70 hours a week, nearly 3,000 hours a year, wasted on mindless scrolling. I was addicted, and I knew it. But the worst part? I wasn't just losing time. I was losing myself. It wasn't always like this. I used to be the guy who had big dreams, writing a novel, starting a side hustle, maybe even traveling the world. But somewhere along the way, I got stuck. My phone became my escape, my comfort, my prison. I'd wake up, reach for it, and before I knew it, hours had vanished. My friends stopped inviting me out because I'd always say I was busy, when really I was just glued to my screen, binge watching YouTube or arguing with strangers online. My boss started noticing my half-assed work, and I could feel my career slipping. I was tired all the time, my anxiety was through the roof, and I couldn't remember the last time I felt truly alive. The kicker? I'd tried to quit before. I'd deleted apps, set timers, even tossed my phone in a drawer for a day, but I always came crawling back like an addict chasing a hit. One night, it all came crashing down. I was scrolling through X, and I saw a post that hit me like a punch to the gut. You're not lazy, you're just wasting your life on distractions. It wasn't some profound quote from a guru. It was just some random user, but it felt like they were calling me out personally. I sat there staring at my phone, and for the first time in years, I felt shame. Not the kind that makes you defensive, but the kind that forces you to look in the mirror. I was wasting my life. I was 27 and I had nothing to show for it. No novel, no side hustle, no adventures. Just a phone full of apps and a head full of regrets. That was the night I stumbled across something that changed everything. The 2-minute rule. It sounded stupidly simple, too simple to work. The idea was to start any task, no matter how big, by just committing to 2 minutes of action. Want to write a book? Write for 2 minutes. Want to exercise? Do 2 minutes of stretches. Want to stop wasting time on your phone? Spend 2 minutes doing something else. Anything else. I was skeptical. How could 2 minutes fix the mess I'd made of my life? But I was desperate, and I had nothing to lose. So I tried it. The first thing I did was set my phone down and grab a notebook. For 2 minutes, I wrote down one goal: get my life together. It wasn't much, but it felt like a start. The next day, I spent 2 minutes cleaning my desk, then 2 minutes reading a page of a book, then 2 minutes doing push-ups. It sounds ridiculous, but those 2-minute bursts started to add up. I wasn't just doing tasks, I was breaking the cycle of distraction. For the first time in years, I felt a spark of control. I wasn't fixed, not by a long shot, but I was moving. And that movement, however small, was enough to keep me going. Over the next few weeks, I leaned into this rule like it was my lifeline. I started tracking my progress, and the numbers shocked me. In 1 week, I went from spending 10 hours a day on my phone to just 6. Still not great, but it was a start. I was sleeping better, my anxiety wasn't choking me anymore, and I even started talking to my friends again. They noticed the change, said I seemed alive for the first time in years. But the real turning point came when I used the 2-minute rule to tackle something bigger, my dream of writing. I'd always told myself I didn't have time, but 2 minutes? I could do that. So every day I wrote for 2 minutes. Sometimes it turned into 10, sometimes an hour. By the end of the month, I had 20 pages of a novel. 20 pages! For someone who hadn't written more than a grocery list in years, it felt like a miracle. But it wasn't a miracle, it was just momentum. The 2 minute rule wasn't magic. It was a trick to get my brain to stop overthinking and start doing. And once I started, I couldn't stop. I began to see my life differently. I wasn't a failure. I was just someone who'd been stuck in a loop of distraction. And now I was breaking free. I started applying the rule to everything: work, exercise, even cooking dinner instead of ordering takeout again. My apartment went from a disaster zone to a place I was proud to live in. My productivity wasn't just better, it was transformed. I was becoming the person I'd always wanted to be, one 2 minute step at a time. I won't lie and say it was easy. There were days I fell back into old habits, scrolling for hours or zoning out to Netflix. But the 2 minute rule gave me a way to climb out of those slumps. It was like a reset button for my brain. Every time I slipped, I'd tell myself, just 2 minutes. And those 2 minutes were enough to pull me back on track. By the end of 3 months, I'd cut my screen time to under 2 hours a day. I was reading books again, 15 in 6 months. I started freelancing on the side and made an extra $3,000 in a year. I even ran a 5K, something I'd never thought possible for someone who got winded climbing stairs. This wasn't just about productivity, it was about taking my life back. I'd been drowning in distractions, letting my dreams slip away while I scrolled through other people's lives. The 2 minute rule showed me I didn't need to overhaul everything overnight. I just needed to start, 2 minutes at a time. And if I could do it, someone who'd hit rock bottom, who'd lost years to a screen, I knew anyone could. My story isn't unique, it's messy, it's real, and it's proof that small actions can lead to massive change. But how exactly did I make it work? What were the steps that took me from a phone-addicted zombie to someone who's actually living their life? The 2 minute rule sounded like a gimmick at first, I'll admit. I mean, how could something as simple as do it for 2 minutes fix the chaos I'd built my life around? But when you're staring at the wreckage of your own habits, missed deadlines, ignored friendships, a body that feels 10 years older than it is, you'll try anything. And that's where the magic of this rule kicked in. It wasn't about grand gestures or overnight transformations. It was about outsmarting my own brain, tricking it into action before it could talk me out of it. Let me break down exactly how I turned those 2 minute bursts into a system that rebuilt my productivity from the ground up. The first step was facing the truth about my distractions. I downloaded an app called Freedom. Not a sponsor, just what worked for me. And it was a gut punch. It tracked every minute I spent on my phone, and the numbers didn't lie. 10 hours a day, sometimes more, on apps that added zero value to my life. Social media was the worst offender. X, Instagram, TikTok, they were like black holes. So I started with 2 minutes of honesty. I sat down, opened the app, and set a block for just 2 minutes. No social media, no notifications, just me and my thoughts. It felt weird, almost suffocating, but when those 2 minutes were up, I didn't die. Instead, I felt a tiny spark of control. From there, I built a habit. Every morning, I'd block my apps for 2 minutes, then 5, then an hour. By week 2, I had a 4-hour block every morning where my phone was basically a brick. That alone cut my screen time by 30%. Step 2 was replacing the void. You can't just take away a bad habit. You've got to fill the space with something better, or you'll relapse faster than you can say one more video. So, I used the 2-minute rule to start new habits. I'd always wanted to read more, but the idea of finishing a 300-page book felt impossible. Instead, I committed to 2 minutes of reading a day. I'd pick up a book. Atomic Habits by James Clear was my first, and read a page or two. Most days, those 2 minutes turned into 10 or 20 because I got hooked. In 6 months, I'd read 15 books from self-help to sci-fi. Each one made me feel like I was reclaiming a piece of my brain from the endless scroll. The third step was tackling my work. I was falling behind at my job, and my side hustle dreams were just that, dreams. The 2-minute rule became my secret weapon. Instead of staring at a blank document for hours, paralyzed by perfectionism, I'd set a timer for 2 minutes and just start typing. Didn't matter if it was garbage, I just wrote. For my freelance gigs, I'd spend 2 minutes brainstorming ideas for clients. For my novel, 2 minutes of free writing. Those tiny bursts broke the mental barrier. One day, I looked up and realized I'd written 500 words in a single sitting. Then, 1,000. By the end of the year, I had a 50-page draft and $3,000 in freelance income from projects I'd landed by just starting small. Step 4 was about my environment. My apartment was a shrine to distraction, phone on my nightstand, TV blaring, notifications pinging like a slot machine. So I spent 2 minutes changing that. I moved my phone charger to the living room so I couldn't scroll in bed. I spent 2 minutes taping a note to my laptop that said, 2 minutes to start. You got this. I even spent 2 minutes rearranging my desk to face a wall instead of the TV. These weren't big moves, but they stacked up. My space started to feel like a place for focus, not procrastination. Studies back this up. Psychologists say your environment shapes your behavior more than willpower ever will. I saw it firsthand, a cleaner desk, a silenced phone, and suddenly I was getting stuff done. The final step was tracking my wins, no matter how small. I bought a cheap journal and spent 2 minutes each night writing down what I'd accomplished. Read 1 page. Wrote 100 words. Didn't check X for 3 hours. It sounds trivial, but seeing those wins on paper made them real. It was proof I was moving forward. Over time, the entries got bigger. Finished a chapter. Ran 5K. Landed a 500 gig. According to research from Harvard, tracking small progress boosts motivation by up to 40%. I felt it. Every 2-minute action was a brick in the foundation of a new me. The results were undeniable. Before, I was a guy who spent 10 hours a day on his phone, barely functioning. After 3 months of the 2-minute rule, my screen time was down to 2 hours. I was sleeping 7 hours a night instead of 4. My anxiety, which used to feel like a constant weight on my chest, started to lift. I reconnected with friends, real conversations, not just likes on a post. My boss noticed my work improving, and I got a raise for the first time in years. My freelance gigs brought in an extra $3,000, enough to start saving for a trip I'd always dreamed of. And my novel? It's at 100 pages now, rough but real. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I still slip sometimes. But when I do, I know 2 minutes can get me back on track. The 2-minute rule works because it's not about willpower, it's about momentum. Neuroscience says your brain hates starting big tasks. It's wired to resist. But 2 minutes? That's so small it tricks your brain into action. Once you start, the momentum carries you. It's like pushing a car downhill. Hard at first, but then it rolls on its own. I tried other productivity hacks before. Waking up at 5 a.m., meditation apps, to-do lists a mile long. They all failed because they felt overwhelming. The 2-minute rule was different. It was doable. It was human. And it gave me results I could measure. Less screen time, more money, better health, and a life that finally felt like mine. But knowing the steps isn't enough. You've got to act. You've got to take that first 2-minute step and see where it leads. My life isn't perfect, but it's mine again. And if I can claw my way out of a decade-long distraction spiral, you can too. So, what's stopping you? What's one thing you've been putting off that you could start for just 2 minutes today? You're still here, and that means you're ready for the final push. I've told you my story, how I went from a guy who lost himself to a phone screen for 10 hours a day to someone who's writing a novel, running 5Ks, and making extra cash on the side hustle. I've laid out the steps. Facing my distractions, replacing bad habits, starting small, fixing my space, and tracking wins. The 2-minute rule wasn't just a magic trick for my brain. It was my way out of a life I hated. But here's the brutal truth. None of this matters if you don't do something about it. Right now. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. You're sitting there, maybe nodding, maybe feeling that spark of inspiration, but sparks die fast. The question is, will you let this be another video you watch, feel good about, and forget? Or will you make it the moment you finally take your life back? Think about where you are. Maybe you're like I was, scrolling endlessly, dreams on hold, feeling like every day blurs into the next. Maybe you're checking your phone right now, notifications pulling you away. I get it. I lived it. But I also know what's on the other side of this. I know how it feels to finish a page of my novel after years of saying, I'd do it someday. I know the rush of crossing a finish line, the relief of a bank account that's not screaming for help. I know what it's like to look in the mirror and recognize the person staring back. That's what the 2-minute rule gave me, and it's what it can give you. But you've got to take the first step. 2 minutes. That's all it takes to start. So here's what I want you to do. Pause this video right now and grab a piece of paper, your phone, whatever. Spend 2 minutes writing down one thing you want to change. Maybe it's cutting your screen time. Maybe it's starting a side hustle, or getting in shape, or finally tackling that project you've been avoiding. Doesn't matter how big it is, just write it down. 2 minutes. Do it. I'll wait. Back? Good. That thing you wrote down? That's your starting line. Now, commit to 2 minutes a day toward it. If it's screen time, spend 2 minutes setting up an app blocker like I did. If it's fitness, do 2 minutes of stretches. If it's a dream project, spend 2 minutes brainstorming ideas. Don't overthink it. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Just start. The science backs this up. Psychologists call it the action bias. Taking even a tiny step makes your brain crave more progress. That's why 2 minutes can turn into 10, then an hour, then a habit that changes everything. I'm living proof. My novel's at 100 pages because I started with 2 minutes. My $3,000 in freelance cash? 2 minutes of pitching ideas. My 5K? 2 minutes of jogging in place. Small actions, massive results. Now, let's talk about what happens when you stick with it. Imagine this. 3 months from now, your screen time's cut in half. You're sleeping better, your mind's clearer, and you've got energy you forgot you had. You're making progress on that goal you wrote down. Maybe you've got a side hustle bringing in extra cash, or you're halfway through a book you always meant to read. Your friends notice you're different, more present, more alive. Your boss sees it too, and suddenly opportunities are opening up. This isn't a fantasy. It's what happened to me, and it started with 2 minutes. The data's real. Studies show people who start small are 80% more likely to stick with a habit than those who try to overhaul everything at once. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need to start. But here's the flip side. If you don't act, nothing changes. You'll keep scrolling, keep procrastinating, keep waking up feeling like you're falling behind. I know because I lived that life for years. I'd watch videos like this, feel inspired, then go right back to my phone. Don't let that be you. Don't let another year slip by while you're stuck in the same loop. You're better than that. You're stronger than that. And deep down, you know it. So take this as your wake-up call. The 2-minute rule isn't just a hack, it's a mindset. It's about proving to yourself you can start, even when you're scared, even when you're tired, even when you don't feel ready. 2 minutes is your rebellion against distraction, against doubt, against the voice in your head saying you'll never change. And once you start, you'll see it. You're not lazy, you're not broken, you're just one small action away from momentum. I want you to join me in this. Subscribe to this channel, not because I need the numbers, but because I want you to stick with this journey. Every video I make is about real change, real stories, real results. Hit that button and let's keep this going together. And drop a comment below. Tell me what you wrote down during that 2-minute pause. What's your goal? How many hours are you spending on your phone right now? Be honest. I read every comment, and I'm here to cheer you on. If I can go from rock bottom to where I am now, you can too. One last thing, don't wait. The 2-minute rule only works if you use it. So, when this video ends, don't scroll to the next one. Don't check X or Instagram. Take 2 minutes and do something. Anything toward your goal. Open a notebook, set a timer, move your phone across the room. Just start. 2 minutes from now, you'll be closer to the life you want. And 2 months from now, you'll be unstoppable. So, what are you waiting for? Your 2 minutes start now.